What's up, guys? Let's talk about how to get your golf game in shape for 2022. How do we jumpstart your golf game for 2022? We're going to cover three main topics here. We're going to cover the basic fundamentals like setup, posture, those kind of things, just to make sure that we get all those little things in shape before we get back on the golf course, back to practicing real hard again, making sure we get those basic fundamentals. Then we're going to jump into talking about the biggest swing flaws that I see that the biggest mistakes people are making, and how do we solve those. I'm going to give you some drills to work on. And then finally, we're going to talk about how to prepare and practice for the golf course. You know, how do we practice on the range? How do we practice on the golf course? How do we get the most out of those sessions so that we can play our best golf this summer? So let's dive into some of the basic fundamentals that I want you to cover through as you're getting back onto the golf course. Let's talk about setup and posture. So posture, the biggest thing I see when we get stiff and we're not loosened up is we tend to, instead of physically bending from the pelvis, right here, we round the upper back like this instead of actually bending from the pelvis. So let me give you a drill to work on getting your back nice and flat instead of rounded, and be able to get in a good leaned over position, because a good setup is where your pelvis physically tilts forward like this, and our butt goes out and our chest goes forward. So butt, chest goes the opposite directions. That allows us to lean over appropriately so that we're able to have room to swing down here. So take the club, put it on your belt like so, just like this, okay? Daniel, go ahead and bring up a split view for me down there. And by the way, I got my man Daniel on the camera over here helping me switch things up. He's helping me a lot. So what we're gonna do is take this club like this, and you're going to push your hips back, okay? One thing that helps is to lock your knees out, because that's gonna force you to bend from the pelvis. So shoulders back, take the club, push it back, and then barely crack your knees, just enough knee bend. We don't want a lot of knee bend, because if you get a lot of knee bend, it's going to make you stand more vertical. It's harder to lean over with a ton of knee bend. So lock the knees out, push the butt back, barely crack them, and then I want the pressure in your feet from heel to toe on the balls of your feet. Not your toes, not your heels, but the fat part of your foot. I want you to lean forward onto the balls of your feet. I see a lot of people when they get started, they're around their back, they're squatting, and the weight's on their heels. That's not a good balanced place to be, so I think it's important that you push your hips back, weight on the balls of the feet, you lean forward, okay? Keeping that chest nice and up and flat, just like this, and that'll get you in a good position to let your arms hang in front of you. If you squat with your knees and you stand too tall, you can see now my arms are hanging on my body. We want them to hang out in front of us, okay? So hang out in front of us, just like this, right? Step up into the ball. And now you have your arms hanging in front of you because your pressure's on the balls of the feet. You're leaning towards the balls of your feet. Now, let's talk about side bends. So switch to this camera angle for me, please. So if we talk about side bends, side bend is the angle of our body this way, right? We want to get an appropriate side bend. I see a lot of people get into some bad habits over the summer, trying to fix contact, et cetera, but we really want a little bit of tilt. So if my hips are level here, I want my lead hip higher than my trail hip. So we want to bump this hip out a little bit. Feel like this right hip drops, this left hip is up, and we're in this little bit of side bend. Now, you may feel a pressure shift in the feet. On an iron, typically we want about 60% of the weight on your lead leg. As we move into our long irons and our woods and our driver, the weight moves more towards 50-50. Okay, so I'll let that be up to you, but mainly I want you to get a little bit of side bend here. And then naturally your shoulders will already have some of that side bend because your right hand's lower, or your trail hand's lower than your lead hand, like this. So you want to have this reverse K look, okay, where you're kind of tilting like this and have the head just slightly behind the ball. I see too many people with this hips, they're stacked like this hip's higher, their head's down the ball, but that causes problems with getting it up in the air. And if you set up that way and you're trying to get it in the air, the only way you can do that is by scooping. Get those two main things going there to where you have the setup, getting your chest out, bending at your pelvis, weight on the balls of the feet, then getting your side bend. And then one little thing I like to do is I like to have a little bit of forward press right here. Just have the hands a little bit forward like this. So instead of hands back, I like it, about the groin is a good spot to be, is about right there. That's going to give you that nice forward press to simulate where we need to be at impact. Okay, now let's briefly talk about ball position. So I know there's different opinions on ball position out there. Most people, most golfers, I'm talking to most of you, have what we call a stair-stepping ball position. So, you know, the pitching wedges, their wedges are all in the middle, maybe slightly back, and then as your irons get longer, it moves a little more forward, okay? So get back into looking at ball position and making sure those things are right. I do have one student in mind that plays every ball from a little bit forward in his stance. You can do that. That's not as common. It is out there. It is done. But start checking your ball position, making sure that, especially with your long irons, if you're having a hard time getting them in the air, to make sure you're getting that ball position forward. And how you'll do that is you'll just take an alignment rod and just stick it between your feet, right? Put it next to the ball like this. Stick it in between your feet. Okay? And then you can check ball position, right? You get that it's on this camera angle? Perfect. So that way you can kind of move around and practice different ball positions. That's really going to help you get those basic fundamentals of ball position, setup, posture, all that good stuff. As far as grip, you know, I'm not going to go into grip here just because everybody's grip's a little different. I do think there is a standard, quote unquote, but that standard is changing. We can talk about that in a later video, but I'll leave grip up to you. All right, Daniel, throw on the screen. Please comment, guys, with any questions you may have. I want you to throw up some comments so at the end we can answer those questions. So go ahead and ask some questions. I'll get to them in a minute, and I may jump in the middle and answer some questions. So if you have any questions, please jump on there, ask them away so I can best help you. All right, here we go. So let's talk about some of the most common swing errors that I see with my clients. So the first one, let's talk a little bit about takeaway. And then we'll talk about the top, downswing, impact, and then we'll be pretty much done with that part. So the biggest flaws with takeaway is we're going to talk about what I see most golfers do, and that's they move the club head too fast, they get it behind them, they open the club face, and on the downswing they have to do something to square it up. So switch to this angle, Daniel, for me. So the takeaway gets way inside like this, and the face gets too far open. That's going to cause you to struggle with controlling the club face, because guys, club face is king. If you can't control the club face, you're not going to be able to control your shots. When you look at the starting direction of a golf ball, which I'll hit some shots in a second and show you those numbers. But if you look at the starting direction of a golf ball, 75% of where that ball starts is where the face is aimed at impact. So I don't care if you're over the top or way into out. What's causing that ball to go offline is where the face is aimed at impact. So if you can't deliver that club face consistently into the ball, time after time after time, you're going to struggle. So what we have to do is create things in the golf swing that control the club face. So number one is that takeaway. So with the takeaway, what we want is we want the takeaway to be one piece. So we want the hands, the club head, the shaft, the hands, the shoulders, all to move in one piece. We don't want to see a bunch of different pieces moving in different directions. And so the best way to practice at first is take the butt of the club, put it in your chest, lean forward like this, and just rotate. And you're going to see that a lot of times what you'll want to do is you'll want to move your hands first, and you'll see it move in your shirt like this. Go ahead and do a split view for me so people can see both angles. You'll see that they'll try to move this first like this, and it'll try to move on your shirt. But here you'll see how my arms are nice and straight, because what most golfers do is they break this trail elbow really early. So they take it back, this elbow breaks really early like this, the club gets inside, and sometimes they create an over-the-top loop, sometimes they get stuck. But the main problem is you can't control the club face, okay? So here's what I want you to do. Here's 2 steps to creating this takeaway. So without a club in your hand, to set it right here, let your arms hang. I want you just to keep your arms straight and just open up your chest. And you're going to see my hands stay really close to my trail thigh right here as I open up, okay? They're not going away like this. They're going in here. Step 2 is to pay attention to the orientation of the hands. So we want to keep the hands stacked on top of each other. We don't want to roll, because if they roll like this, you'll see it's going to roll the face open. So real quick, let's talk about what a square club face is as we talk about the stacked hands. So a square club face, if you take the leading edge of the club, that is straight up and down, and it's matching my spine, right? Okay? So if I turn like this, that's still matching my spine, right? I haven't opened the club. This would be opening, right? So if my spine's at an angle here, at this point in the takeaway, that line should be matching my spine facing down. So a square club face is actually the face aiming down, matching my spine. Toe up, which is how I was taught when I was younger, is actually open. So if you're struggling missing balls to the right, then it could be because you're having too many things in your backswing that are opening the club face. Now, if you're hooking the ball, more than likely it's because you're flip hooking your hands through the shot, more than likely, okay? But I still think it's important to create a takeaway with a square club face. Justin Thomas has his a little bit open. It's not toe up, but it's also not perfectly square with his spine. It's somewhere in the middle. So it doesn't have to be absolutely perfect. So when you take the club back, if you'll keep your hands stacked more like this when you take it back, instead of rolling like this, you'll see that if I keep my hands stacked, that face will stay down, and it helps keep the club in front of us. Because if you look at some of the best players in the world, like Justin Thomas, well, most tour players, I would say probably 95% of tour players do not get the club head behind them at the end of the takeaways. It's right here. It's not here. Most clients get back here. It's here. So that's where probably 95% of golfers are, is they're somewhere between on their hands or in front of their hands. So let me hit 2 shots, and then we'll bring up the TrackMan view, and we'll show you the difference between the 2 takeaways. So I'm going to do the first one wrong. I'm going to get the takeaway inside, and I'm going to show you what most clients do, and then I'm going to show you what a good takeaway is. So here we go. A little thin. So go ahead and bring up the TrackMan view, Daniel. Just the TrackMan only. All right, I'm going to scrub through this right here. As this pulls up, looks like the face on camera failed. That's okay. I don't need it anyways right now. So see how that my elbow breaks really early, the club gets inside, face is actually getting open. That's what I see by the majority of my clients. Okay, that opens the club face, it creates timing in the golf swing. Okay, go back to the split view, Daniel. I'm gonna hit one more shot real quick. Now, what we wanna do is we want the hands to go straight back to arcing a little bit inside. Okay, but we want the club head out in front of us just like this. Okay, and how we do that is we open the chest, we get everything moved together, we keep the trail elbow straight, okay, just like this. And then to get the club in front of us, we have to hinge this way. So as I go, it's hinging in front of me this way, it's not hinging behind me this way. There's a big difference. I get a lot of clients that'll hinge it this way instead of hinging it towards themselves like this. So you've got to hinge it this way. So let me show you what a good takeaway is now. Assuming I get it perfectly correct, but usually I do. I hit a lot better shot too. Okay, go ahead and switch your TrackMan view for me, Daniel. Okay, go ahead and just make that one full screen since that other camera's not working at the moment. We'll figure that out here in a second. All right, so if I grab that video, play this back, you can see how it's getting right on my hand line. I could have done a little better, had the club a little more in front of me, but I definitely did not get the club behind me. All right? So that is a better takeaway, especially if you can control the club face. Okay, go ahead and switch back to the split view for me. Especially if you can control the club face and not get it wide open, right? And get it matching your spine, that's huge. Okay, that's takeaway. That's one of the biggest flaws I see is getting it way inside. Sometimes I see guys take it way outside. And if you're taking it way outside, just work on getting the hands more inside and keep the club in front of you. Okay, those are the main key points there. All right, let's talk about the top of the swing. One of the biggest, there's 2 big errors I see. We'll kind of try to cover them both, but there's one main one I want to cover, and that's over swinging the arms. So a lot of you guys make a big enough turn, but what you don't do is keep the arms in front of you. So here's a rule of thumb. As long as I keep turning my chest, I never have to break my elbows, right? I never have to. So at some point, we have to break the trail elbow, correct? Well, what we don't want to do, though, is make a big turn, and when we're supposed to stop is right here, but what happens is a lot of golfers will take their trail shoulder, they'll retract it, the elbow will get behind them, and then they create no space up here, and the club's trapped into them. From here, you can't swing, so you have to throw, scoop, and then we have all sorts of problems controlling the club face. Okay? Not to mention, it actually messes with your face at the top of the swing. It opens the club face. Because let me talk real quick about wrist flexion. Switch to this camera for me. So if you look at wrist flexion, the flexion of your lead hand, okay? This is flexion, this is extension. Flexion closes the club face. Extension opens the club face. Okay, extension opens, flexion closes. So if you overswing at the top, look at what the wrist looks like at the top. It's an extension like this, which opens the club face, which means on the downswing, you've got to do something to square it up and then creates timing. Okay, go back to split view for me. Okay, so what we want is we want to maintain that wrist angle flatter. You may be in a little bit of extension, that's okay, but we don't want to exaggerate it by having too long of a backswing with the arms. So technically, I'm not shortening your backswing. I'm just shortening how far your arms move. Backswing, but I want you to move your arms a lot less. Okay, so here's what that looks like. So instead of taking the club back with your arms and getting a lot of momentum, which is what one of the main causes of it is, the arm whipping action off the shoulder, right? And you see a lot of guys that look like that and they can't control the club face. What I want you to do is feel like the chest and the club move together and that the hands and the club stay in front of your chest as long as possible. So as I take this back, I'm going to go really slow. Stand in front of me, stand in front of me, stand in front of me. Now see my arms are still straight to here. From here, this arm is going to fold, but it's not going to move behind me. So that's almost a full backswing for me. It's going to go about right there with an 8-iron. And as my club gets longer, like a 3-iron, driver, etc., it'll get closer to parallel because I'll make a bigger turn, not because my arms are moving more. That's key. So work really hard on creating width. So width is the distance from your hands to your head. So you can see I have a lot of width here. If I get a lot of shoulder retraction, the shoulder retracts and the elbows behind me, I lose all that width, right? So what I want to do is I want to work really hard on takeaway and then keeping that width right here, stopping my arms in front of my chest and then swing through, okay? So I'm going to make 2 swings. I'm going to show the good swing and the bad swing, and then we'll compare them real quick. So let's do the bad swing. Let's do what I see most of my clients do. Okay, I'll kind of try to do both bad. How about that? So we're going to go inside like here, and then through. Yeah, I mean, even just when I do that, I feel like I have no face control. Switch TrackMan for me. Yeah, just that view. Okay, I need to, Daniel, I may have you see if you can fix that face on camera here in a second. But you can see that's going well past parallel, right? And then you can see the wrist right here. See, that's in a lot of extension right there. Okay, I just lost all control of that club face, right? No control. So now I have to come down here, throw the club, scoop, and I just don't have any control of the club face. Okay? All right, so go ahead and stop that. Give me 1 second, guys. I'm going to try to fix this face on camera real fast. Not sure why it's not working, but we're going to get it working real fast. Maybe. There we go. Okay. There we go. I heard it ding. All right, now we'll get the face on view. Now I'm going to do the appropriate swing, okay? Here we go. Go ahead and switch back. There you go. Thank you, Daniel. Okay, here we go. That's a halfway decent shot. Okay, switch. There we go. Okay, let's take a look at the face on view first. So if you look at the face on view here, you're going to see I have a decent amount of width there. You can see there is some space between my hands and my head, and my arms are more in front of me. I could have done a little better job, but at least I'm not getting the arms way behind me, and now I have face control. I wouldn't normally have face control if I went way too long. And I'm also not I have a little bit of extension here, which is normal for me, but I'm not creating excessive extension at the top of the swing. Okay? All right, go back to the down the line view for me. So I'll briefly cover one of the other big flaws I see is, because we're already on this topic, is too much extension in this lead wrist. I'm okay with a little bit. Everybody's different. We usually match that up based off what type of ball flight you want. But if you're at the top of the swing, you're super across the line like this, and you have a lot of extension, I'm probably going to guess that's probably way too much. It's probably going to be more beneficial for you to go towards a flat wrist. I wouldn't say flexion though. If you're going to go into flexion, you have to be able to turn your body really hard to make the club face be square, because that'll close the club face a lot. Because if you see, if I go into flexion, that closes the club face quite a bit. So to keep that open, I have to rotate a lot to make that work. So take a tongue depressor, put it in your glove, or a pin or something, put it in your glove. I don't have one on right now. And just work hard on getting that wrist flatter at the top, just like that, instead of extension like this. Okay? You may want to feel flexion. I know you probably won't get there. That's okay. But if you'll notice now, see that face is closing, coming through? That's really going to help you square the face up, especially if you're a player that tends to lose the ball to the right. Those are the two biggest errors I see with golfers at the top of the swing, is the wrist flexion and then over swinging their arms. All right, let's talk about impact. So when it comes to fixing impact, and by the way, go ahead and post some questions if anybody has any, so that I can answer your questions. So let's talk about impact. So impact, the biggest thing I see is obviously scooping, right? We have a scooping problem. Now I'm going to show you some drills to fix scooping. However, I'm going to say however here. You're probably not going to be able to fix it completely with these drills, but they're going to give you a good start to starting to learn how to get rid of the scooping pattern, which is this right here, right? Instead of forward shaft lean and impact. So here we go. So go ahead and switch to split view for me here. People like to see the split view, I know that, so you can see both angles here. So the first drill I like is the paddle drill, okay? So the paddle drill is going to train the lead arm. I think the lead arm has a huge influence on your ability to create forward shaft lean, because if it doesn't keep moving through impact, if it stalls back here, it's going to stall, and then the club head's going to be released and flick. But if we can keep the lead hand moving through the shot, the club head can't flip, right? So this is a really good drill for it. So we'll look at TrackMan here in a second. Get about a club head width apart, pretty narrow stance. Okay, ball should be middle, maybe half a ball back, not super far back. Go ahead and preset forward shaft lean here like this. This hand's going to be on it like a paddle. It's not actually going to grip it, okay? Now this hand is going to remain on the club through the backswing, which should stop about right here, all the way to impact. And then at impact, this hand will stop, and then it'll extend on through, okay? Because that's going to give you the feeling of the lead arm that keeps moving. It doesn't stop and it doesn't flick, right? So here we go. We're going to go here, through. You may not always make the greatest of contact because it is a one-handed drill. Go ahead and switch to TrackMan for me, and just do the face-on view for me. That's all I need. So blow that face-on view up. I'm going to zoom in a little bit here so you can see. Oh, that's as far as it goes. Never mind. Okay, you probably saw a little bit of that. If you look, when I come into impact, you're going to see those hands are pretty far forward, and they move on through the ball. It's pretty hard to screw this up, guys. You almost can't scoop with this drill, but I want you to see the mechanics. See how my body's turning better, my lead arm keeps moving, the club head has no time to flick and scoop. Okay? So go ahead and switch to split view for me. So do this drill a few times, capture yourself on video because I need you to see it, and then what I want you to do is I want you to practice this and then put two hands on the club. So do a few of the paddle drills, okay? And then what I want you to do is put two hands on the club, but feel the same feeling as the paddle drill. So basically what's going to happen is you're going to feel this lead arm feel like it's trying to pull out of your right hand, and it's extending through the shot. Like if I had a punching bag right here, okay, I want you to hit the bag up here. I don't want you to hit it back here. A lot of people will stop and let the club flick like this. I want you to let it go through and punch the bag out here. The biggest point of the speed should be out here. So then what you'll do, now take two hands after you've done the paddle drill. Same stance, same length of backswing. Okay, but now you're going to feel like you're going to punch that bag. So real short and through. Go ahead and pull up that TrackMan view for me. Let's see just the face on again. Oh, sorry. We're both trying to move the keyboard at the same time. It doesn't work. My fault. Okay, so now I took that a little longer. I would suggest a little shorter, but that's okay. But now you can see the lead arm pulling through and extending through the shot. I created forward shaft lean. So go back to split view for me. So what I see most golfers doing is I'm actually seeing them slow down their arm, and then this arm actually stops accelerating and it's trapped across their chest, and they look like this, right? Does this look familiar? And then they scoop on through, okay? So train your lead arm how to create forward shaft lean and then slowly build it backwards in your swing. I will say you're going to hit this little zone right here where you take the club past this point, and that's when the scooping is going to come back. So you're going to have to fight that battle of training the chest and the hips and the lead arm to continue to move past impact so you can create that forward shaft lean. So use the paddle drill to really work on contact, really get in that really crispy contact by getting the contact forward and getting the body rotating a little more. That's really going to help jumpstart your ball striking and really make sure that you start making good contact. One more suggestion I would say, switch to this camera for me, is just go buy a bottle of Athlete's Foot Spray. Make sure it says powder spray. Spray a light mist on there. It'll show you where you make contact every single time. That way you can see where you're making contact and you start correcting contact errors. Okay? All right, so now let's briefly talk about how are we going to play and practice on the golf course. So I want to briefly cover that, and then I want to leave it open to any comments if anybody has any. It's cool if you don't. I'm covering a lot of stuff, but let's talk about a couple of things that we can do on the golf course. One thing I would say is don't put golf in a box. When you go to the golf course, you don't have to play a typical 9 holes. Okay? At the very beginning, when you're trying to get your bearings back, go drop balls around the chipping green. You have 9 different greens to practice on. We don't have to just practice on the chipping green. So you usually get around 5 to 7 minutes a hole, okay, to play that hole. And so drive straight from the tee box to the putting green, drop a few balls around the green, work on your chipping, work on your putting. That's one good routine. If you want to work on your wedges, like, I don't know, 50 yards and in, just drive straight to 50 yards and in and work on some wedge shots around the green. Okay? Or maybe just work on your tee shots. Maybe hit 3 or 4 balls off the tee and then drive to the next hole, work off the tee there. Don't put golf in a box. Go practice on the golf course. Okay? Don't play that typical round of golf, because even if you're not hitting the ball well, guys, I think it's important you still go play, because there's so much you can learn. Because golf is an experience-driven sport, and you have to get that experience. You can't just wait until your swing comes together, whenever that technically is. Okay? When is that? So get on the golf course, start practicing. Now, here's some of the things I would do when you're getting on the range. Okay? Spend a lot of time at the beginning working on short swing impact drills, working on contact. So just get up there and work on just really short swings and work really hard on hitting the middle of the face, work really hard on getting the body turning again and getting to a full finish. Because at the beginning, if you hadn't been hitting a lot of balls, you're probably a little stiff and you're probably swinging a lot of arms. So it's really good to make sure you get a full turn on your backswing, full turn coming through, making sure you're posting this foot like this, your trail foot, and getting through the ball. And then making sure that you're hitting the ball first with these short impact drills. Okay, so paddle drill is a good one. You can do what you call presetted impact. Everybody calls it a little different. But what you're going to do is lean the shaft forward, open your hips, open your chest like you would if you're at impact. You're going to hit the golf ball from here. It goes back and then through. You're not going to hit it very high, but at least you're going to go and make good contact with it. Okay, that's a really good drill. You can even do some one-handed drills. You can do your trail hand. I've done this, where you open the body up just a little bit, lean that hand a little forward, and work on getting this hand to move this way and not scooping this way. So you can hit some shots like here, and you go here. Say I hit that a little heavy, I'd have to work on that, but really just getting through the ball like that. Those are some good drills. A step drill is also a good drill to kind of get the body moving towards the target. Okay? So what you'll do is you'll set up to the ball like this, drop the foot back, and you'll do a short swing step through. Now here's the key. As the swing's going back, you have to start stepping. You can't take it back, then step. It's this way, right? So real short swing. So here, get you through the ball. I only have 7 irons, so it's not going to get very high. If I had like a pitching wedge or something to get a little higher, I might even suggest using a more lofted wedge when you do these drills, just so they get a little higher in the air. You could even I wouldn't use an alignment rod. It's just what I have right now. I'd use a towel. Put a towel, we'll call this a towel, about the width of your foot behind the ball like this, okay? And you're going to work on getting the contact in front of that alignment rod, okay? So if you scoop, you're going to hit the towel / alignment rod, right? If you scoop like this. So you have to imagine getting your body on this side of the line and through the ball to miss the alignment rod. So if I make a little half swing here, okay, I was over the rod, completely missed it, wasn't worried about hitting it, but that'll really encourage you to get the body moving towards the target and not hanging back and scooping and hitting it fat, okay? All right, switch to this camera. All right, guys, I don't know if I see any questions. That's cool, no big deal, but I hope you enjoyed this. If you have any questions, comment below. You can even check out my website at wadefullinghamgolf.com. But I hope you enjoy this sessions Go out there and take some of these drills and really work hard on it. If you have any questions, let me know. Peace.